I reread the messages from my mom for the 10th time. Family dinner tonight. Don't be late. As always, my stomach clenched at the thought of another evening of subtle banter from Ria. Disappointed looks. My name is Alexandra. I'm 34 and I own one of the most profitable real estate companies in the city. However, my family doesn't know about it. For them, I'm just Roman's wife, who is engaged in something related to apartments. The irony is that they all live in my house. Earth is calling Alexa. Olga waved her hand in front of my face, bringing me back to reality. You're thinking about dinner again, aren't you? But how not to think? I fiddled with my salad plate with my fork. Mom is already starting to write her messages. You know what she's like when it comes to Roman's family. You can always tell them. Olga raised an eyebrow, that you own the building. About everything else. And lose the pleasure of being underestimated. I forced myself to grin. Besides, it's easier this way. Tenants are easier to manage when they don't know who their owner is. The phone vibrated again. This time Veronica, Roman's sister. Mom asks if you'll bring anything for dinner. Can you buy something at the store? Everyone knows how busy you are. God, those passive-aggressive emojis. I showed the messages to Olga. Remind me, why are you letting them live in your house? Because I'm a masochist, I sighed. Actually, it was Roman's idea. He thought it would make it easier for everyone to maintain close relationships. If only he knew. The truth was that I built my empire quietly, step by step, starting with one small property, then another. Until I became the owner of half of the residential blocks in our area. The Main Pearl is an elite residential complex where my mother, father-in-law, and Roman's sister lived. And all of them did not even suspect that their rent payments were coming to my company. Miss Amarova. Maria, my assistant, came to our table. The contractors are ready to inspect the new facility. Thank you, Maria. I'll be there in 10 minutes, I turned to Olga. Duty calls. Alex, wait. She took my hand. Promise me one thing. Don't let Mom break you today. Remember who you really are. I nodded, but we both knew it was easier said than done. Yvette had a special talent for finding my weak spots. Since childhood, it seemed to her that I was always not good enough. Even my marriage to Roman, a successful architect, did not meet her inflated expectations. The rest of the day flew by in a series of meetings and inspections of objects. And before I had time to realize, I was already standing in front of the door of my mom's apartment, or rather my apartment. I straightened my laconic black dress and took a deep breath. There you are. Roman came up from behind, smelling of fresh air and office coffee. I was afraid you were. You'll get stuck at work. He kissed me on the cheek. A light, reassuring kiss. I felt grateful again for his constant support. Even if he didn't know the whole truth about my success. We initially agreed on separate finances, and he never asked questions about our fairly comfortable lifestyle, which was provided by my small one. A small business. Ready? He asked, reaching for the doorbell. How is that even possible? The door swung open, and Mom appeared on the threshold, well-groomed and immaculately dressed as always. Finally, everyone is already waiting. Mikhail and Veronika brought simply delicious wine. Mikhail was standing in the living room with a smug smile. Hello, Alex. A hard day at the office. You look tired. Actually. I started, but Mom interrupted me as usual. Alexandra, dear, you should do something about those dark circles under your eyes. I told you, too much work at your age will only lead to wrinkles. I noticed Alice, Mom's best friend and her neighbor, hiding a smile behind a glass of wine. She lived in a penthouse, in the most expensive apartment in the complex, and never missed an opportunity to witness her mother's signature style of criticism. A novel. Mom turned to her husband. A promotion in your firm. Great news. At least some of you are moving up the career ladder. I felt the vibration of the phone in my purse. Probably Olga was checking how the dinner was going. But I didn't look at the messages, put on my best smile, and went to the kitchen to help Veronika with the dishes. Don't bother, Veronika said without turning her head. We know that household chores are not about you. I squeezed the edge of the countertop, trying to breathe more evenly. If only they knew about the multi-million-dollar deal I signed this morning. About the renovation in the east wing of the building, which they complained about. It's part of my expansion plan. About the fact that every convenience that they took for granted in this expensive residential complex existed, thanks to my business decisions. But today was not an evening of revelations. At least that's what I thought. Until Mom's voice rang out from the dining room. I ask everyone to sit down. I have an announcement about the management company of the house. I froze. Her tone made my stomach ache uncomfortably. Maybe tonight will be more interesting than I expected. Trying not to show it, I returned to the dining room, my heart pounding faster. Mom stood at the head of the table, holding a glass of wine, like a queen addressing her subjects. Recently, the work of the management company leaves much to be desired, so I started collecting signatures to replace it. The wine I just drank went down the wrong throat. I coughed, and Roman patted me on the back in concern. "Is everything okay?" he whispered. I nodded, unable to answer as Mom continued. "I've already collected the signatures of most of the tenants on our floor. Alice, you'll sign up too, won't you?" "Of course." Alice nodded fervently. "Their reaction to repair requests is just awful." I bit my tongue. These terrible delays were caused by the complete replacement of the building's electrical system. An upgrade that I ordered after I found out that the previous owner was saving on security. "Alexandra," Mikhail interjected, rotating the glass in his hand, "you work in real estate. Can you finally do something useful and help us with the petition?" "I don't think that." I started, but Mom interrupted me again. "Oh, come on. Alexandra, on the other hand, understands almost nothing about real estate. She's just doing paperwork in her little management company, isn't she, dear?" Roman shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Actually, Alex, dinner is delicious," I hastened to interrupt him. I wasn't ready for him to start protecting me now. "Veronica, did you make the lasagna?" "Store-bought," she admitted with a slight grin. "Some of us have too much real work to cook from scratch." The injection was transparent. Last month, I refused to participate in her network business, citing employment. It looks like she still hasn't forgotten that. Speaking of career, Mom put the glass down on the table. "Mikhail recently became a partner in his law firm. That's what I call success." "Congratulations," I managed, even though the word sounded bitter on my tongue. "Thank you," he nodded with a satisfied smile. I looked down at my plate, trying to keep a neutral expression on my face. But the thought was already beginning to boil inside. They would find out who the real owner was here. "Nelix." Roman grinned at the corners of his lips, and this smile was sharp as a blade. "If you ever want to rise above the level of paperwork, I can put in a good word in our real estate department." The initial position, of course. There were stifled chuckles at the table. Even Roman looked awkward. "Thanks for the offer, but—" "Alexandra," Mom interrupted for the umpteenth time, "you really should think about it. The Lord knows that you need some kind of vector in your life." 34. And what can you show in the end? There was silence in the room. I felt everyone's eyes fixed on me. "Mom," I said softly, "there's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine." "It's not enough?" She slammed her palm on the table so that the cutlery rattled. "Look at everyone around you. Roman will soon become a partner. Roman has already become one. Veronica runs her own business. Even daughter Alice recently bought her first house. And you? Are you still playing businesswoman?" "That's enough," Roman began, but Mom was already in a rage. "No, it needs to be said. I'm tired of watching my daughter squander her potential. Do you know what people say? They wonder why Roman is still with you. With such a loser." The word loser hung in the air like a drop of poison. Cheeks flushed not with shame, but with anger. "Mom, let me finish." She raised her hand to stop me. "I've arranged an interview for you at Roman's firm. A real job with prospects. It's time to stop pretending you're a businesswoman. And interruptions in the maintenance of the house, I said, trying to keep my voice even. Despite the wildly pounding heart associated with the modernization of the electrical system, the old wiring did not meet safety standards. Everyone froze, staring at me in surprise. And how do you know that? Roman asked with a grin. There was superiority in every word. I pulled out my phone, opened my mail, and put the device in front of my mom. Because I approved this repair order 3 weeks ago. What are you talking about? She squinted at the screen. The petition won't change anything, Mom. The management company reports directly to the building owner. I took a deep breath. And the owner does not respond to threats. And how do you know what the owner thinks? Veronica looked at me with a sharp look. I stood up. A strange calm settled inside me. Years of silence, years when I swallowed their words, allowing them to believe what they wanted, all of this suddenly merged into one moment of truth. Because I looked everyone in the eye. You're all having dinner at my house right now. The silence hit my ears like a vacuum. Roman's fork fell onto his plate with a thud. Roman's smile froze on his face. Veronica opened her mouth, unable to find words, and Mom's face went through the whole spectrum of emotions. From amazement to disbelief. You're lying, she whispered. I reached for my purse. Do you want to take a look at the certificate of ownership? The creak of a chair on the parquet floor broke the silence. Mom jumped to her feet. It's not funny, Alexandra. I'm not trying to joke, I replied calmly, although my fingers trembled slightly when I opened the bag. A novel. Mom turned to her husband. Did you know about this? Roman looked as shocked as the others. Alex, what's going on? I wanted to answer, but at that moment the phone vibrated in my hand. Olga's name flashed on the screen, as always, at the perfect moment. I'm sorry, I said, stepping aside. I need to answer. Don't you dare walk away from the conversation. Mom's voice broke into a squeal. But I had already put the phone to my ear, already leaving for the kitchen. Hi, Olga. How's dinner from hell? You know, I just told them. She said. What? Olga's voice trailed off. You're not. That I own a house. Holy shit. Alex, I'll be right there. Don't, I started, but I heard short beeps. She's already hung up. When I returned to the dining room, Roman was sitting with the phone in his hands, obviously checking my words. Veronica was whispering something to Roman, and Mom was standing in the middle of the room with a white face. It's impossible. Roman exclaimed, looking up from the screen. The owner. Company-o. Real estate. Oh. I repeated slowly. Alexandra died. But? Veronica gave me a confused look. It means. I sat down on a chair and reached for a glass of wine, that I own not only this house, but the whole block. I took a sip under the shocked stares of the family, as well as a residential complex on the other side of the city, and a new facility on the embankment, which is currently under construction. You're lying, Mom repeated, but there was already a note of doubt in her voice. At that moment, the front door opened, and Olga entered the room with a folder in her hands. Sorry to interrupt the family dinner, but I think it might help. And who else are you? Mom asked sharply. Olga Gross, financial director of Hey Give Properties, she introduced herself and put the folder on the table. And, by the way, your daughter's business partner. Roman immediately reached for the folder, turning on his lawyer instincts. Flipping through the documents, he grew paler with each page. These are official papers, he muttered. Purchase and sale agreements, tax reports, licenses. Alex, Roman gently touched my hand. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted to, I whispered. But at first it was easier to keep everything separate. And then it became funny. Olga finished for me, and immediately caught her mother's withering gaze. Funny. Mom jumped up from her chair. Do you think it's funny to make a mockery of your family? No, Mom, I answered calmly. It was funny to watch you complain to my face for 3 years about the work of the management company. Is that why you raised the rent? Veronica gasped. The upgrade was necessary for the repairs and improvements that you all demanded. I shrugged my shoulders. Although for everyone present here, I made a discount on the Friends and Family program. Please don't thank me. So that's why you turned down my business offer, Veronica guessed. Veronica, I earn more in a month than your mom company brings in a year. Roman whistled softly, continuing to study the documents. The marginality is impressive. Thank you, Roman. So the offer of the initial position is still valid. He blushed and looked away. Olga chuckled. I don't understand. Mom sat down heavily on a chair. Like you? When you? Do you remember the inheritance from your grandmother? I reminded him. You said then that I was stupid, since I decided to invest in real estate instead of buying a bigger house. These 50,000 became the starting capital, Olga added. Alexandra turned them into an empire. And kept it a secret because some people. She looked pointedly around the audience. They could have interfered with her if they had found out. Suddenly Roman abruptly stood up. I need to breathe. Roman, wait. I wanted to follow him, but Olga Astana stopped me by gently touching my hand. Give him time, she whispered. He needs to digest everything. Well, Alice spoke up, breaking the silence for the first time. Perhaps now it's clear why my repair requests were always executed so quickly. Actually, I turned to her. They were executed quickly because you are a conscientious tenant and do not make unreasonable demands. Unlike some. I looked at my mom. How dare you? Her voice trembled. I'm your mother. Yes, Mom. And you're also my tenant. By the way, I took out my phone. Shall we discuss your petition? There was silence in the room again. I've seen memories of our past conversations flash through everyone's mind, but now from a completely new angle. I think. Olga's voice rang out, breaking the tense silence. Now is the right time to tell them about the waterfront project. What's wrong with him? Roman was wary. I smiled, feeling the weight of many years of secrets fall off my shoulders. But I will tell you about this with special pleasure. My success. For years, when I swallowed their condescension, I pretended that I was doing nothing, just to keep the peace in the family. It's all in the past. I could finally be myself. Well, I said. Let's just say that an increase in rent in this house will seem like a trifle compared to what awaits the residents of the new district. Mom's face changed from pallor to a bright red blush. Alexandra Amarova. You wouldn't dare. But for the first time in my life, I clearly understood what power I was holding in my hands, and I was no longer afraid to use it. I wouldn't dare that, Mom. I leaned forward. Raise the rent. Apply building rules. Or maybe just start treating your investments like the business they are. You can't do that to your own family. Svetlana's voice was trembling. Actually. Olga took out another document from the folder. According to Section 8 of your lease agreement, we may change the payment terms with 60 days' notice. Roman snatched out the contract, frantically running his eyes over the pages. This is a standard item, but still. Yet what? I stood up, feeling more confident with every word. I will not use my legal rights. I will continue to let you live here at a reduced rate while you mock my career. The door opened and Roman entered the room. His face was calm, but his eyes were serious. We need to talk, Alex. A novel. Mom immediately grabbed him like a lifeline. Tell her. Talk some sense into her. Actually, he said quietly, I need to talk to my wife about why she thought she couldn't trust me in this matter. His words hit harder than any rebuke. Roman, it's not a matter of trust. This. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to find the words. Because finding out that your wife owns half of the city right over a family dinner is very similar to a trust problem. Well, that's funny, Mom grinned. She lied to everyone, and you're still making a victim out of her. I wasn't lying, I snapped. I just didn't correct your assumptions. It's not the same thing. A difference that cost you the trust of your family, Roman added with a satisfied grin. Olga stepped forward and clapped her hands. Okay, that's enough. Alex, we have a meeting with investors tomorrow morning. Maybe it's time. Investors? Roman turned to me sharply. What other investors? I took a deep breath. We are expanding the business. The project on the embankment. This is just the beginning. We plan to buy the territory of the old industrial district and turn it into a multifunctional complex. This is a multi-million-dollar project, Roman muttered, clearly already calculating the possible legal risks. Rather, a multi-billion-dollar one, Olga clarified. And Alexandra is the main shareholder. There was a real chaos in the room. Veronica burst into tears, repeating something about the betrayal of the family. Roman quickly began to expound legal terms. Mom launched into a tirade about lies and manipulation. But I was only looking at Roman. When were you going to tell me? He asked softly. I've been waiting for the right moment. The right moment? He laughed bitterly. When? When will you buy up the whole city? Is that unfair? I was indignant. No. You know what's really unfair? He gestured around the room. All of this. You made me look like an idiot in front of the whole family. Did you like it? Watch us lose ourselves in guesses while you pull the strings. Roman, please, I need time. He turned and headed for the door. A novel. I took a step forward, but he didn't even turn around before he left the room. I'm spending the night at Mark's. The door closed with such finality that my heart sank. But I couldn't let myself go limp. Not now, not in front of them. Well, Mom's voice was dripping with satisfaction. I hope you're happy. You managed to ruin your marriage along with everything else. Actually, Olga intervened coldly. The only thing that is collapsing now is the illusion that you can humiliate Alexandra forever without consequences. How dare you talk to me like that in my house? This isn't your house, I said softly. This is my property. I took out my phone and where is it? And opened the mail. I think it's time to review the terms of all lease agreements. You wouldn't dare, Veronica whispered. Try to stop me. I started typing messages. Maria, send me the current market rates for similar apartments in this area and schedule an inspection of the building for next week. It's time to make sure that all apartments meet the standards. Alexandra. Mom's voice trembled. This is ridiculous. No, Mom. It's a business. Isn't that what you've always wanted? Roman got up from the table, straightening his tie. It's not over yet. Our lawyers will check everything. Great, Olga smiled with her lips. Surely they will be interested in working with our legal team. Alex. Veronica looked at me pleadingly. Think about what you're doing. I looked around at their faces. Shock, anger, betrayal. The family that had looked down on me for years now realized that they had been living in my shadow all this time. I thought about it. I got up and picked up my purse. I thought about it every time you made fun of my career. Every time they devalued my achievements. Every time they made me feel insignificant. I nodded to Olga. Now stop thinking. It's time to act. We headed for the exit. You're going to regret this. Mom shouted after him. I turned around on the threshold. No, Mom. The only thing I regret is that I didn't do it sooner. The door slammed shut, and only then did I allow myself to smile. The truth has finally come out. But for some reason, it was more like a beginning than a finale. The next morning, the phone literally exploded with notifications. 17 missed calls from Mom, 23 messages from Svetlana, and 1 letter from Roman's law firm. They work fast, Olga noticed, looking over my shoulder in the office. But their threats are empty. The documents are impeccable. I'm not worried about threats, I sighed, and showed her the latest message from Roman. We need to talk. I'll be at the office at noon. Do you want me to stay? No. I need to figure this out on my own. I rubbed my temples. How is the situation with the residents there? Your mom is calling all the tenants in the house, trying to turn them against you. Olga grinned. But, you know, no one is eager to support a person who opposes his own landlord. The phone vibrated again. Veronica. Mom is hysterical. How could you do this to her? Delete? I mumbled, swiping at the messages. And what about investors? They stay in business. Moreover, now they are even more interested to know that you are not just a quiet partner. Are you sure? After everything that's happened. What happened is exactly why I built it all, I replied, waving my hand around the office. To never depend on anyone's approval again. But when I went to the conference room, Mom's words were still ringing in my head. You're going to regret this. The question was, wasn't I starting to feel sorry now? 3 days after the meeting with investors, I was sitting in my office, looking through the notices of termination of lease agreements. When Roman entered without knocking. Your security is not working well, he said, sitting down in the chair opposite. I just said I'm your lawyer. You're not my lawyer, I replied without looking up from the computer. And impersonating him is a crime. Speaking of crimes. He took out a folder. I found out something. Of course, I found out. I didn't look up. How's Mom? In a nervous breakdown. You're married? Veronica is with her now. In my apartment, I guess. Roman's jaw twitched slightly. Speaking of which, these termination notices are perfectly legal. I finally looked into his eyes. In 60 days, the rent will rise to the market. Either pay or move out. It's just revenge. No. It's a business. I turned the monitor to him, showing the tables. I've dated your lifestyle for years. It's time to stop this charity project. And the destruction of marriage with Roman. This is also a business. His fingers froze over the keyboard. It's none of your business. Actually, it's mine. Because while you were playing real estate mogul, you ruined all your relationships. Was it worth it? Did you come here for some purpose, or are you just lecturing? Roman leaned forward. I have a suggestion. Not interesting. Listen up. He opened the folder. You are planning to build an industrial area, but your team missed one detail. The problem with zoning laws. I raised an eyebrow. And I can help sort this out. In exchange for some concessions. Do you call this blackmail? I call it taking care of the family. He smiled a cold smile. Leave the rent at the same level, stop this vindictive campaign against Mom, and I will help your project pass all approvals. I laughed. It was impossible to restrain myself. What's so funny? He frowned. Actually, yes. I took out my own folder. You see, I knew you'd try something like that. That's why my real lawyers have studied your firm's work with the zoning committee. Roman's smile faded. Interesting reading, I continued. These private meetings. Convenient decisions about changing the status of lands. I wonder what the Ethics Commission will think about this. Are you bluffing? Try me. I stood up. And now back to the notices of termination of contracts. The door swung open with force. Veronica burst into the office, tears streaming down her cheeks. Heartless. Light. He started a novel, but she interrupted him. No. Let her hear. She slammed her palms on the table. Mom's in the hospital. Anxiety attack. Are you happy now? I felt a brief pang of anxiety, but it was quickly suppressed. It's sad. Sad. You did it. You and your stupid revenge. Revenge. I laughed again. The laughter sounded strained even for me. I'm just running my own business. Business. Svetlana's voice cracked. But what about the family? But what about Roman? Roman made his choice. No, you made the choice for him. Svetlana's voice was trembling. When did you decide that money and power are more important than love? The phone vibrated, a message from Olga. Roman's lawyer has just delivered the divorce papers. Do you want me to do this? Out, I said softly. What? Veronica blinked in disbelief. Both of them? Get out of my office. You have 60 days to find new apartments. If you can't pay the market price, I advise you to start searching now. Roman slowly got up. You're going to regret this, Alex. You'll be left alone, just you and your money. I said out. I pressed the security call button under the table. And one more thing. If you try to impersonate my lawyer again, I will file a complaint with the Bar Association. Two guards appeared almost instantly. Veronica, sobbing, allowed herself to be let out. Roman moved to the door more slowly, turned around on the threshold. Do you know what the saddest thing is? You've become exactly what you've always been afraid to become. Cold, domineering, and completely alone. When the door closed behind him, Olga came into the office with 2 cups of coffee and a worried expression on her face. Did you hear the screams? Are you okay? In full. I replied, looking at the divorce papers. Give these papers to the lawyers to check. And schedule an inspection of Mom's apartment for tomorrow. Alex, Olga sat down opposite. Maybe it's worth slowing down a little. Think. Think about what? That maybe you're going too far. I took a notice from Eshel about the termination of contracts. Her fingers trembled slightly. It's not revenge, it's consequences. Really? Because from the outside it looks like you're burning all the bridges. The phone vibrated again. A message from Roman. Sign the papers. I hope you find what you were looking for. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of everything I had gained and lost this week. Investors liked your presentation, Olga gently reminded. A project in an industrial area will make you one of the most influential developers in the city. Yes. I whispered, looking at Roman's messages again. But at what cost? A week later, I was standing in my mom's empty apartment, listening to the echo of family dinners and bitter quarrels. She was discharged from the hospital yesterday, and now she was living with Svetlana, leaving behind 30 years of memories. And a note hastily scrawled on the kitchen table. I hope you're happy. The inspection revealed violations, Olga said, scrolling through the data on the tablet. Unauthorized changes in the electrical system that do not correspond to the repair bathroom. She always believed that the rule is for others. I ran my finger along the edge of the dining table, the one where everything collapsed. Alex. A familiar voice rang out at the door. I'll leave you, Olga said, and, slightly squeezing my hand, went out. Roman looked tired. His tie was loosened, his shirt sleeves rolled up. He did this only in stressful moments. Your lawyer said you haven't signed the papers yet. I was busy, I replied, gesturing around the empty apartment. Family dramas, you know. I heard about your mom. Hospital. Have you also heard about illegal repairs? About attempts to blackmail me? Enough, he raised his hand. Simple. That's enough. It's not you. Not me. Everyone around me is sure that I'm turning into my mother. No. He took a step closer. Your mom would never have built anything like this. She destroys, and you've always been creative. I created it until this revenge mania took over your whole life. He picked up a note from the table. Was it worth it? He asked. Victory. Before I could answer, the phone rang. Svetlana's name appeared on the screen. Will you answer? Roman asked. I pressed the speaker. Hello? Mom's worse. Svetlana's voice was trembling. Doctors say it's a severe form of anxiety and depression. She keeps repeating that she has no reason to live anymore. It's manipulation, even for her. God, listen to yourself. Veronica screamed. Your own mother is falling apart before your eyes, and you're talking like it's a bad business deal. What do you want from me, Sveta? I want my sister-in-law back. The one who helped me move into my first apartment. The one who supported me when I lost my job. Not this. This is a monster who cares more about power than people. Roman looked at me, his face remained impenetrable. I'm not a monster, I said softly. I'm just what? Successfully. Influential. Alone. Svetlana's voice cracked. Congratulations. You won. Mom is broken. An investigation has been launched against Roman for violating ethics, and Roman is leaving you. I hope your empire was worth it. The connection was cut off. She's right, Roman said softly. It's not about business anymore. It's about punishment. They deserved it, I whispered, but the words sounded empty. Really? They deserved it? And you? He came closer. The Alex I married wanted to succeed, to prove something to herself, not to destroy others. I didn't destroy anyone. Seriously. He took out his phone and showed me the posts on social networks. On the screen, there is a picture of my mother in a hospital room with a haggard face. Svetlana's publications about a family tragedy. Roman's hints of betrayal. They're just pretending to be victims, I said. No. They're just people. And you seem to have forgotten what that means. The phone vibrated again. A message from Olga. Investors want to meet, worry about negative publicity. Fine, I smiled bitterly. Even the empire is beginning to crumble. And thank God, Roman said. What? Thank God. Maybe then you'll remember what really matters. And well, the fact that I fell in love not with Hay Properties, but with Alexandra. A woman who wanted to build something meaningful, not destroy everything because of resentment. I sat down on a chair in the dining room, the same one where I was sitting on that ill-fated evening when it all started. I do not know how to fix it. You know? Roman sat down opposite. You're a builder, Alex. You've always been able to fix what's broken. The question is, do you want to fix it? Or you will continue to destroy everything. The phone vibrated again. Another message from Svetlana. Mom's asking about you. Roman stood up. The divorce papers are still on your desk. But there also lies the key to fixing everything. Your choice. He started for the door, but stopped on the threshold. Do you know the difference between you and your mother? I looked up. She destroys because she is afraid of being insignificant. And you build because you know how big it really is. At least, I used to know. When he left, I was left sitting in an empty apartment, surrounded by the consequences of my actions. The empire I had built suddenly seemed as empty as these walls. The phone lit up again. Photo from Svetlana. Mom in the hospital room looked small and tired, clutching an old family photo in her hands. And for the first time in all this time, I felt something inside me crack. Maybe it's time to build something new. Something better. The hospital corridor seemed endless as I walked to my mother's room, clutching a folder of documents in my hands. What are you doing here? Veronica got up from her chair near the ward, her eyes widened in surprise. And I correct mistakes. I picked up the new lease agreements folder. The initial bids are guaranteed for 5 years. She stared at me. Is this another game? No games. I took a deep breath. Simple. Just a daughter who needs to talk to her mother. Veronica nodded slowly. She's not sleeping. But if you upset her, I won't. I promise. In the ward, Mom looked so small, not at all the domineering woman who had kept our family dinners at bay for years. She didn't look up when I walked in. Have you come to evict me from the hospital? The voice was weak, but there was still a familiar taunt in it. Actually. I sat down next to him. I wanted to show you something. I opened a photo album on my phone. Remember that? She glanced at it briefly. A photo of a 12-year-old proudly showing me a treehouse. You said it would fall apart, I continued. But it didn't fall apart, because even then, I was able to build something that lasts for a long time. Alexandra, let me finish. I showed another photo of the first property I bought. You were right about one thing, I really became like you. I tried so hard to prove my worth that I forgot why I started this path. To prove that you're better than me. She asked bitterly. No. To prove that I'm different. And opened the folder. Here are the new contracts. For everyone. At the old rates. Mom finally looked at me for real. Why? Because victory no longer feels like victory. I put the folder on the bed. I don't want to build an empire on the spot. That's not who I am. And who are you? Those who build, not destroy. I took out another document, including this. She took the paper with trembling hands. What is this? Drawings of the project in the industrial area. Residential complex for the elderly. With a community center named after you. I don't understand. I'm tired of fighting, Mom. I'm tired of proving everything. I want to build something meaningful. The door opened. Roman entered. Surprise showed on his face. Excuse me. I didn't know. Stay, God, even you, I said quickly. Please. He hesitated, but entered the room. Mom looked at both of us. Divorce papers, she reminded him gently. I took them out of the folder. I didn't sign it. Roman froze. And I won't sign it. I tore the papers in half because you were right. I'm a builder, not a destroyer. Alex, he began. I know it won't fix everything. But I want to try to build something that really matters. Mom looked at the blueprints again. Why did you name it after me? Because, no matter what, you gave me the most important lesson. The difference between strength and power. Power destroys, but power builds. Veronica appeared in the doorway. Roman was standing behind her. Is it true? He asked, pointing to the contracts. No tricks. No tricks. I stood up. I suggest we all start with a clean slate. Just like that? Veronica asked incredulously. No, not just like that. I shook my head. We need rules, boundaries. A real relationship, not a power play. I looked at my mom. And it's worth starting with honest conversations. I can't, she whispered. Me too. But I can build. Maybe we should start with this. Roman came closer and took my hand. Together. Together. I squeezed his hand, and then looked at the others. I'm not going to give up on my success. I've worked too hard for this. But I want it to mean more than just revenge. And in the community center, Mom said thoughtfully, I could help with the layout. I would be glad. I smiled. You've always had good taste. Veronica wiped her eyes. What about family dinners? A new tradition, I suggested. Everyone cooks, everyone contributes. No power games. And the building? Roman asked. It remains under my control, I replied. But with an open dialogue, clear ways of filing complaints, and mutual respect. Mom took my hand for the first time in many years, and maybe for the first time in her life. There was no judgment in her gaze. You really built something amazing, she said softly. I'm still building, I replied. And this time, I want to do it right. Roman put his arm around my shoulders. This is the Alexandra I married. I looked around the room. Roman's proud smile, Svetlana's cautious hope, Roman's thoughtful expression, and tears in my mother's eyes, and I realized the main thing. Success is not about proving others wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you can be right. Well, I said, taking out my phone, who wants to take a look at the preliminary sketches of the community center? The family gathered around me, expressing ideas, and finally listening to each other. At that moment, I realized this is not the end. And not even the beginning. It's just the next floor of what I've been building all this time. A legacy of strength, not power. And now I was building it according to the right blueprints.